Every play's a statement, coach head on the headset, leading like a champion. Games on blast, yeah, we talking all the scores. From the stands to the couch, it's college football wars. Tactical rise, rivals feel the pressure. Every snap, every pass, it's a teacher lecture. We breaking down the plays with rhythm and force. This podcast is the playbook, it's the main source. On the headset, we're calling the shots. Every team on the rise, giving all that we got. On the field, we hustle, every snap like it's told. Highlight reels rolling, the stories unfold. Tailgates are packed, fans decked in their pride. On the headset, got the whole world on our side. From the kickoff to the final drive, coach heads breaking down how we thrive. Every week, every game, we're turning the tide. On the headset, where the passion won't hide. Let's talk stats, let's break it down. Championship dreams, we're wearing that crown. From the big wins to the heartbreaking loss. On the headset, we're here, no matter the cost.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Playbook Postgame, my gridiron review. This is where on the Hardcore Sports Network, only on the Hardcore Sports Network, you're going to see me reviewing the games, giving you a recap of what went on this past weekend, my insight into what happened. And I'm also now going to be introducing my top 25 rankings. I haven't done it prior to this because I wanted to see the teams play, and I know they do a preseason and, they go from there. I'm a little bit different. I want to see you play first, and then I'll make my decision from there and go week to week. So you'll be seeing my top 25 in terms of the college football from there. So, but hey, before we get into this, make sure you guys hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and hit the notification. This way you know when new content is always posted, and share on all your social media platforms. Hey, it's free for you guys, so it helps me out, it helps the network out, and we greatly appreciate you for tapping in and helping us. So right now we're going to get into a little kickoff recap. All right, so we're going to be talking about the games this weekend and what went on. So let's sit back and let's dive into it. So, this weekend, this week really was a phenomenal kickoff to the college football season, as there were games that lived up to its hype, lived up to its billing, while others did not. They kind of fizzled out, and they were surprising by some of the ultimate results, ending results. So now when you're seeing these games where you have top-ranked teams competing and battling each other, that's always energizing, exciting, and a great way to start a season. So having the opportunity to sit down over the past few days, 5 days at that, man, to sit down and just watch the games, college football games, a fan like me was in heaven, man. I really loved it. So situations like that is always special, and it's a great way to ignite your season. So one thing I wanted to talk about, it was a situation that was very special. It was very endearing, and it highlighted the connection that people have to college football. So this moment in week one was the send-off that everyone gave to Coach Lee Corso. Corso has been a football coach, he's been a player, but he was also a media fixture for ESPN on College Game Day. Always there, giving his predictions and doing it in a special fashion. Now, he always did things that were called the headgear selection. What is that? Well, he sits down and he tells you who he thinks is going to win a particular game. Usually it's a big game that the ESPN is there for. And he pulls out a headgear representing whatever team he thinks is going to win. So he made his final selection. And this was done before the big game between number 1 Texas and number 2 or 3 Ohio State, depending on the publication. And in his great fashion, he actually picked the same team that when he first started 29 years ago, He picked one team, and to close it out, he picked the same exact team. And you know who that team was? Ohio State, the Buckeyes. So 29 years ago, he picked Ohio State, and this past Saturday, he picked Ohio State again. So kudos to him. Now, the love and appreciation for Corso, it was evident throughout the whole show, man. Fans paid so much respect to him, paid great homage to him, and thanked him for making the pregame such a special pageantry that, you know what, you always had to turn in and see College Game Day, especially for Coach Corso. Now, for me, I want to say to Coach Corso, thank you. Thank you for keeping this game to where, for me, it's always great to get information that I've always been looking for. It's exciting, and most importantly, it's fun. You know, because if you can't have fun, then it takes away from enjoying the sport. So, Coach Corso, he allowed me to continue to be like I was when I first played football in college. That first year, man, I was just so eager to learn and to grow in the game of football. And Coach Corso gave me that. So, respect to him. Thank you for such great memories, and I wish you nothing but the best going forward. So now we're going to dive into the games, man. And I'm going to start with one game that did not live up to its billing. It was a game that we talked about, you know, fans, media personalities. It was written about, and it stemmed from one of the greatest football coaches kickstarting his career at the college level. Talking about Bill Belichick, and he's the head coach at North Carolina. So the Tar Heels hosted the Horned Frogs of TCU, so Texas Christian University. So it wasn't a pretty sight ultimately. TCU ended up winning this game 48-14, and I'm going to be honest, it wasn't even that close, man. It really wasn't, man. It was, you know, watching to see this legacy of a coach, it was just not good. I mean, if you were watching the game, you saw the high dignitaries that were there for North Carolina: Lawrence Taylor, Michael Jordan, Mia Hamm. You know, the list goes on and on and on. And everyone who was there for Carolina was greatly disappointed. Now, one player who performed admirably was actually for TCU. It's quarterback Josh Hoover. I mean, he threw 27 passes. He completed 27 passes on 36 attempts, hit for 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So he had a good game. Now, North Carolina, they had to use 2 quarterbacks. Transfer quarterback Gio Lopez, who transferred in from South Alabama, he was 4 of 10 for 69 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. So he also ended up leaving the game due to injury. So the quarterback who came in for him was quarterback who was on the team last year, who actually started last year, but he got hurt and was out for the season. That's Max Johnson. This Max Johnson also is the son of Brad Johnson, former NFL quarterback and Super Bowl winning champion quarterback. So he has the lineage behind him. He went 9 for 11, 103 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the offense looks totally different when he was out there. So, yes, they have a different skill set. Johnson is more of a pocket passer, while Lopez is more of a dual threat type of a quarterback. And I understand they're going to call it differently, but you could still see there's a difference. Some of it I will attribute to TCU, in a sense, quote unquote, falling off the horses, but you could still sense there was a difference in how the game was called and executed. So now TCU dominated in the rushing game. They went for 35 carries, 258 yards, and an average 7.4 every time they carried the football. North Carolina, 28 carries, 50 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. So the average wasn't there for that. So, you know, the hype up for this game led to a lot of excitement and intrigue especially because it's Bill Belichick's first game as a college head coach. You know, UNC did have a great opening drive. They drove down the field after getting the opening kickoff and scored a touchdown. And they were up 7-0. But everything for them just totally spiraled out of control and changed. The intrigue, the mystique of Belichick, it just seemed like it wore off, and ultimately this game became what we always say, a woodshed whooping. So they took him out to the woodshed, and they really took it to him. So TCU dominated in all phases, offensively, defensively. Their defense even contributed to the scoring onslaught with an interception that was returned for a touchdown. And there was a sack and a fumble that was created. This is where Lopez got hurt. And then it was scooped up by the defense and returned for a touchdown. So overall, offensively, TCU, they produced 542 yards to Carolina's 222 yards. Hoover, like I said earlier, he was very efficient, and he put the offense in positions where they could be successful. So, so there you have it. One little tidbit I wanted to add in terms of Hoover. He played last year, and he was offered the opportunity to go to other programs and make money, serious money, but he turned it down to stay with TCU. So shout out to him, and that's why he was so endeared in the program. And he has my respect, because in this day and age of transfers and hitting the portal, to go make some more money, he could have easily done that. So, and also shout out to Kavarian Barnes. He led TCU with rushing with 113 yards on 11 carries and 1 touchdown. It was a big touchdown that came at the start of the second half. One play, 75 yards, and he went untouched. So in the end, just sat down, and I wondered how big the score was going to be for TCU. So there you have it. We'll see what happens with Coach Belichick and the Tar Heels going forward. How they rebound. It's going to be tough. They have a very tough schedule. So hopefully, they can pick it up, but we'll see. The next game we're going to talk about is Clemson and LSU. Very big game, number 4 versus number 9 in Clemson. So, LSU had to travel there, and, Brian Kelly hasn't been successful in opening games. And in the end, LSU did come away with the win, 17-10. Now, this is a little defensive fight, you could say, because there's not a lot of high scoring. But for LSU, quarterback Garrett Nussmeier was 28 of 38 for 230 yards and a touchdown. So he's very efficient. Quarterback for Clemson, Cade Klubnik, was 19 of 38, no touchdowns and an interception. So, and these are 2 quarterbacks that many have projected to go high in next year's draft. We'll see. Rushing wise, LSU had 31 carries for 108 yards, 3.5 average per carry. And Clemson had 20 carries for 31 yards, 1.6 average. So very inefficient. The LSU defense dominated, limiting Clemson in total, passing and rushing, to 261 yards. They harassed Klubnik and their offense, stopping them on 4th downs in certain critical situations. As I said before, it's a big win for Brian Kelly, because he's gotten off the slide. It's a big win for LSU because they've been on the 5-game skid in losing the opening game to their season. So this got them off of the snide, especially because it's on the road against the number 4 ranked team. So, there you go. So a little fun fact for you guys. With LSU's win, it's giving them bragging rights over Clemson. And you might say, Coach, what do you mean by that? Well, this is a mascot name battle. Both teams are named the Tigers, so LSU can claim the title as the big Tigers. So, and also, they both play in a stadium called Death Valley. Well, for Clemson, it wasn't a Death Valley, but for LSU, they caused a lot of problems in the Valley to Clemson. So there you have it, the Clemson and LSU game. Next up, to a lot of people, the upset of the weekend, Florida State hosting Alabama, and Florida State came away with the win 31-17. Now, Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, he passed 23, he completed 23 passes on 43 attempts, 254 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, it's a decent game. Could have been more efficient in completions and connections, but overall, an okay game. Quarterback Tommy Castellano for at Florida State was 9 of 14, 152 yards, and rushed 16 times for 178 yards and 1 touchdown. So he was a very dynamic dual threat type of a player. So in terms of rushing, Alabama rushed 29 times for 74 yards and a 2.6 average per carry. Florida State, they rushed 49 times for 230 yards and averaged 4.7 yards per carry. Now, Castellanos, who transferred in from Florida State, he came in from Boston College. Now, prior to the game, early in the week, he made a big, bold statement. And his statement was that Alabama wouldn't have Nick Saban on the sideline to save them, and that Alabama, couldn't stop him. Now, that's big bulletin board material. And as coaches, we don't want our players to do that because, while we got to go out there and play the game, it just sometimes it can make it different. But Castellanos, he instilled the confidence throughout the program. As a team, they came out ready to rock and roll and back up their quarterback. And boy, did they. Castellanos really had them fired up. And he was also a problem for Bama all day long. So the Seminoles, they used a dominant Russian attack and a stifling defense to completely pummel the Alabama Crimson Tide. And we haven't seen that done to Alabama in a long time. So going to see what happens as the season goes on. There's certain rumblings going on, but I'm not going to touch it right now. But we'll see what happens a little bit later. Next is the big game. The big game. Number 1 Texas traveling to Ohio State. That was the big game. Ohio State was 3 in one publication, 2 in another. So everybody was really amped up for this game. And Ohio State came out victorious in a defensive game, 14-7. As an old school, I love it. I love it. Not a 40-39 type of a game or something like that. 14-7. You got to strap it up. You got to bring it. You got to be ready to battle all the way through from beginning to end. And you could say that was done for the most part. Now, the prohibited favorite for the Heisman, early possible number 1 overall draft pick if he came out, Arch Manning, had a very pedestrian day. 17 of 30, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So really didn't have a good game. Now his counterpart for Ohio State, Julius Sayin, was 13 of 20, 126 yards, and 1 touchdown. So he was very efficient. Didn't have a lot of passes thrown all over the place, but he got the ball to his playmakers and allowed them to make plays. So in terms of rushing, Texas rushed 37 times for 166 yards. So that's an average of 4.5 yards per carry. So, they were good. They moved between, and as I like to say, between the 20. So, but got to close it out. Ohio State rushed 34 times for 77 yards, a 2.3 average. So, not a lot there offensively. So, like I said, that's why it's a complete game, and it was also about the defense. Now, Ohio State's defense stopped Texas on fourth downs a few times, about 4 times. They also stopped them inside the 10 twice, 1 from the 1-yard line. They also gave Manning issues throughout most of the game, getting these critical stops whenever it was needed. Saying he looked poised in his first career start, managing the offense and throwing a big 40-yard touchdown pass to Carnell Tate, helping to extend the Buckeyes' lead at the time, 14-0. So there you have it. That was a big game. Ohio State came away on top. So next we're going to talk about the rivalry. This dates back to the late 80s, early 90s in my era. you had Miami hosting Notre Dame. Back in the days, they even had this marketed as the Catholics versus the convicts. So they don't do it anymore. I get it. But back in the days, Miami had that, coming out wearing camouflage gear, very serious and stoic, sunglasses, even talking trash. And Notre Dame, the campus is very clean and pristine. Your helmets, shiny, even have some gold flakes and mixed into the gold paint that paints the helmet. So that's why it was, marketed like that. Now, Notre Dame quarterback, CJ Carr, he had a decent day. He was 19 to 30, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. There's a lot of things he needs to clean up, but it was an okay game. Carson Beck, transfer from Georgia, was 20 of 30, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, one more completion, but he was a little bit better. Notre Dame rushed 28 times for 93 yards, an average of 3.3 yards per carry, while Miami rushed 38 times for 119 yards, but an average of 3.1. Now, the Hurricanes played inspired and hungry to end an 8-year time frame of not beating a top 10 program. I mean, again, Miami has always been known to be one of those programs, but to go 8 years of not being a top 10 program, they definitely broke that with this game. Beck performed well. The play of the year was between him and wide receiver C.J. Daniels, who made a spectacular one-handed catch for the touchdown. I mean, this play was so great that Daniels leaped up, reached back, grabbed the football, and brought it in. And even on the play, there was a Notre Dame safety who was at the goal line waiting, in a sense, for the football because he had it pegged that he was going to be intercepted. He was going to make the interception, but Daniels snatched it right away from him and just fell right into the end zone for the touchdown. Now, watching this game added to many great memories for me. Always watching this rivalry as I'm going back, it added to me loving college football because of the game and the different storylines this sport presents. Now, Miami, they definitely used their defense to close out this game in the end. Miami's kicked the winning field goal with about a minute left in the game, and when Notre Dame took over the football, their hopes was ended when Miami ended up getting back-to-back sacks to basically close out the game and seal the victory for Miami. So there you have it there. A big win for Miami and puts them back on the map. So now, in a surprise of the weekend, you had Boise State, who traveled from Idaho to South Florida, and Boise was ranked number 25 coming in. I mean, they were in the college football playoffs last year, so they were, thought of as a top program, but South Florida took it to them. I mean, literally took it to them. And when I say took it to them, they got the belt and took it to them. They ended up beating them 34-7. They completely steamrolled Boise, who was ranked at number 25. The Bulls used some trickery to keep the Broncos off balance and capitalize on mistakes that Boise caused to help in coming away with this convincing victory. So kudos to South Florida. I remember the times when South Florida was highly ranked in the country, and maybe they're on their way back. So we'll see. So that's what I have for you guys right there in the recap. So we're going to go ahead now, and I'm going to give you my top 25 in college football. So let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 25, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So there you have at number 24, the Indiana Hoosiers. 23, the Auburn Tigers. 22, the Texas A&M Aggies. 21, the Oklahoma Sooners. 20, the SMU Mustang. 19, the Utah Utes. 18, the Michigan Wolverine. 17, the Florida State Seminoles. 16, the Tennessee Volunteers. 15, the Iowa State Cyclones. 14, the Illini of Illinois. 13, the Alabama Crimson Tide. 12, the Florida Gators. 11, the Arizona State Sun Devils. 10, those Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. 9, the Gamecocks of South Carolina. 8, the Tigers of Clemson. 7, the Longhorns of Texas. 6, the Ducks of Oregon. 5, the Hurricanes of Miami. 4, the Bulldogs of Georgia. 3, the Tigers of the LSU. 2, the Nittany Lions of Penn State. And number 1, the defending champion Ohio State Buckeyes. So there you have it. That's my list. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you tap in the comment section. Let me know. You agree? You disagree? What's your ranking about cap off for the weekend? What was special about it for you? Love to hear from you guys. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank everyone for tapping in and your support. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys next week with another one, the Playbook Postgame. Peace.
On the field we grind, every play's a statement. Coach head on the headset, leading like a champion. Games on blast, yeah, we talking all the scores. From the stands to the couch, it's college football wars. Tactics arise, rivals feel the pressure. Every snap, every pass, it's a teacher lecture. We breaking down the plays with rhythm and force. This podcast is the playbook, it's the main source. On the headset, we're calling the shots. Every team on the rise, giving all that we got. On the field we hustle, every snap like it's gold. Highlight reels rolling, the stories unfold. Tailgates are packed, fans decked in their pride. On the headset, got the whole world on our side. From the kickoff to the final drop, coach heads breaking down how we thrive. Every week, every game, we're turning the tide. On the headset, where the passion won't hide. Let's talk stats, let's break it down. Championship dreams, we're wearing that crown. From the big wins to the heartbreaking loss. On the headset, we're here, no matter the cost.